Okay, so the screen you can see now is the main screen that you'll see when you log in. There's actually nothing on there at the moment because I haven't done any interactions, but we'll come back to this screen, which is called the dashboard, as we start to add things in. Now, a dashboard is a user view of what someone has attributed to them currently. So that could be inquiries, or it could be FAQs that they own. As I say, we'll come back to it a little bit later. The screen's made up of three main parts. The left-hand side we have our menu, and you'll only see what you have access to. So everyone should have access to inquiries, FAQs when we go live. There'll also be a logout button that will take you to your My Day portal. The menu can be docked into the left-hand corner by pressing on the left arrow at the bottom of the menu, and you'll see that will turn into icons, and that becomes a rollover menu at that point. At any point in time through SID where the menu shows, you can dock or undock the menu. At the top is the main header, but also the student finder lives there. Now, the student finder is a way of searching for a student's profile where we're getting the data directly from Banner. And I'll explain that a little bit more in a minute. And then the rest of the screen is your user view. So that's where things will appear, and that's where you'll start to work with inquiries or FAQs. So let's have a look at the student finder. Now, the student finder is a way of searching for a student really quickly, and we'll have lookups into Banner data that can pull that student profile view over for you. So, for example, if we were searching for a student with a surname of Pilot, I could just put in their surname and hit enter, and the student finder would go away and search for that student profile. We can also clear the results just by pressing the X. We can also do a username, so a student code search, just by typing in their user code. Now, obviously, that's normally numbers, 7 or 8 digits, I think, for you guys. This is just test data, therefore we're just using test 2 to 4. But just by putting in a user code, a student code, it would go away and search for that. You can also do forename and surname searches, and you can also do email address searches. So just by putting in some small details at the top of the student finder, it's a really quick way of getting and searching for the student profile that you need to start working with. Now, it may be that you don't know all of the details. And what you can do is you can do an advanced search on the student finder just by clicking on the magnifying glass. And you'll get this the view that looks similar to when you bring back results. And from here, what we can do is we can start to build up a search. So, for example, I could put in forename, and maybe I know what the first name contains. And as long as I've got 3 digits or more, I can do a search. So just by putting in LOG, it's found Logan. So whilst we can do a really quick search at the top, we can do our own customized searches just by clicking on the magnifying glass. And in here as well, I could actually add in 2 or maybe 3 different fields and use different fields. So just lots of different ways to really make sure we can search for the student that we're looking for. Once you've found the student, when the search results come back, you'll always see it in this layout. So you'll always have an image placeholder on the left-hand side. You'll see the student ID, the first name, the surname, and what source it's come through. So that might say SID or it might say Banner. We've only got SID data in at the moment, hence why we're only seeing SID. Now, you may have lots of results come back, so you might want a way of just seeing a little bit more information about that student without having to click out of this screen. You can do that just by single clicking on the image of a row, and it will give you a list of all the fields that are attributed with that record. So I can see the what group the student's in, I can see their email address and their telephone number. When we start to use banner data as well, we'll be able to see things like their year of study, what status they are, whether they're a Tier 4 student, just by clicking on that image. Now it may be that I want to see a full profile view, and I can do that by just clicking on the student ID. So if I just click on the student ID, it will take me into the profile view. Every student within SID has a profile, and on that profile we hold their basic contact and student record information, as well as we hold an activity list of any interactions the students had or may have had with a service that are using SID. So when we go into a profile, we'll be able to see the basic information, so such as name, student ID, date of birth, what campus they're on and what course or program route they're on. We'll also be able to see any contact information, so that may be their institution email address and any personal email addresses we hold within Banner, and also their main contact telephone number and main contact address, and also any other information that we bring across. So as I say, that could be location, mode of study, enrolment, status, and we've already got a list of those things that are already coming across, so you'll see lots of other information on there. As well as the main profile information, and it's important to note that the profile information will always get updated from Banner. So if it changes in the master record system in Banner, then it will change in your view within SID. So the two systems will always be kept in sync. What I can also do on the profile is see an activity list of any interactions that the students had. That could be them logging an inquiry for themselves through the portal. It could be a staff member logging an inquiry on behalf of them, or it could be that the students used our FAQs to search for an answer themselves, and we can see what FAQs they've been searching for and read. So at the top of the activity feed, it's split into the different areas, so you can see this student's had 2 interactions, 2 of them are inquiries, and they haven't looked at any FAQs. And I can see the list of inquiries that they've logged. Now, the data that I see here will entirely depend on my access control as a staff member to what data from what teams I can see. I think it's fair to say that generally it's quite a flat level, that we're sharing as much data as we can possibly, just to make sure for you guys around the institution that you've got an holistic view and a centralised view of what's happened with that student. There may be some times that we don't show certain data to you, but I'm sure that will be shared with you in due course. For an example of that, it may be that counselling can only see counselling data and nobody else can see that sort of level of confidentiality. Within the activity view, I can also see a read-only preview of that inquiry, so I can see quickly what's happened. And I can see every sort of timeline interaction on that inquiry. So they've logged an inquiry, and then we've added further information from the student. So that's the student profile and the tab on the activity feed. One thing to note as well on the activity feed is whenever you do a read-only view, you have got a breadcrumb at the top, so you can go back to the activity list just in case you need to read another one or look at some other details. So by using the student finder, we can search for a student quickly. by clicking on the image, we can see a quick view of their profile. And by clicking on the student ID, we can see the full profile and the activity feed. Now, on every line on the student finder, we also have a quick menu, which is this blue drop-down box here. And if you click on here, we can start to use that student record anywhere within the system. So, for example, if you wanted to go to their profile and go straight to their activity feed, you could use the quick menu to click on activity, and you'll see that will be the same as going to the profile and clicking on the activity tab. The same as if I use the same drop-down menu and go to inquiries, it will go to that activity feed and filter it onto the inquiries. So they're just quick ways of getting to the information that you need directly. What I can also do is from here, from the quick menu, I can start to log a new inquiry for that student. And if I click on new inquiry from the quick menu, I'll see the new inquiry form load. Now, I can get to it another way. And if I'm looking at the full profile of a student, on the Profile tab, there's a new inquiry button there, and I could use that to get to the same screen. So, different routes in, but I'm getting to the same information. So let's start to look at logging an inquiry on behalf of a student. So this may be that you're on the telephone with them, they're at the front desk, or they're in an appointment and you need to log an inquiry for somebody else to deal with. The first thing that we need to do when logging an inquiry is search for the category that's relevant to the query. So in here we have a big long list of categories, or question types if you like. The ones in grey are top level, so sort of a grouping category, and the ones that are indented in are sub-levels. It doesn't matter whether you click on a top level or a sub-level, you'll be able to log an inquiry. So I'm logged in as a careers advisory service, so I'm going to keep to a careers inquiry. Any big drop-down list within SID has a search as you type function. So although I can scroll through it, it's quite a big long list. So maybe I just want to search. So I'm going to search for job, and you'll see it will filter all of the inquiry categories that have job in. So I'm going to log an inquiry for job hunting. The first thing I need to do is type in a subject for the inquiry. So a little bit like a subject on an email. So quick, factual, and gives the person who's looking at that quick view, which you'll see later, a really good sense of what the inquiry is. Now, depending on the category that I select here, will also depend on the information that I need to fill in below that. Now, against a category, we can have something called category questions, and that's a way of getting more information at the first point of logging. So, when we're logging inquiries, we can ask staff and students questions to make sure we're getting the right information. So, for example, on job hunting, we could have a question that said, have you already looked for jobs previously? And maybe we could have another one that says, list the companies you've already applied for. That sort of thing. They can be logical, they can be mandatory. We can basically build forms when we're logging inquiries to get the information we need. So, the next thing I need to do is put in a description of what this inquiry is. And a description is a little bit like the body of an email, and that's the easiest way I always think about it. Subject's like the subject of an email, body, description's like the body. So as I'm logged in as a staff member, I can also use a rich type text box. So I can use bold text, italics, underline, I can change colours, I can add images, lots of different things. I can also set up what's called standard responses. So a standard response is a text template when we're dealing with inquiries. That could be login, like I'm doing now, or it could be when I'm updating, which I'll show later. But it's a way of putting in templates or paragraphs of text that I can use and maybe amend to make my job as a staff member easier when I'm dealing with inquiries. And if you have any of those already, then send it to the team and we can look over those and start adding them as we go live. So I've now added the description. And by clicking on Show Advanced Options, I can also see the other bits of information I need to fill in as a staff member. The next one I need to fill in is the source. So where did this inquiry come from? Was it from an email from a student? Was it on the telephone? Was it in person? And we can set up our own our own sources, so there could be more, there could be less. Again, they're being set up in the main system. I'm going to say they're in person with me. And the next thing I need to do is say where this inquiry is going to go. Now you'll see when you're logging an inquiry as a staff member on behalf of a student, system allocation, the middle box, will always be the one that's ticked first. Within SID, against every inquiry category, there is a default owning team that when this inquiry is logged against the category will be automatically directed to. So that makes sure that when we're logging inquiries, it goes to the right team at the right point. As a staff member, we have the option to change that, but as a student, which you'll see later, they don't. It will always go to that default team. So I could leave it on system allocation, and it will go to the team it's going to go to from a system point of view. I could also allocate it to myself, which is the left-hand box. Or I could do what's called a manual allocation, which is the right-hand side box. And once I click that, I'll get a list of teams that I could go through and see who's within that team. And I could either assign it to the team, or I could assign it to a specific person within that team. And you'll see when you see this box, it's broken down into the different campuses. Dubai, Malaysia, UK being one campus with borders and devices. And then the teams will be on the right hand side. So when you're logging an inquiry, system allocation is always a default. However, as a staff member, you can allocate it to yourself if you think you're going to deal with that inquiry, or you can do a manual allocation where you can pass it to anybody using SID. Parent inquiry number, what that enables you to do is link two inquiries together. So maybe when you've looked at the profile, you can see a similar inquiry that's happened that has relevant information on. If you copy the inquiry number into this parent inquiry box, once you save this, it will link the two inquiries together just as a link, so it's really quick to see the previous information. But that's just a type-in box. You need to get that information from the activity view of the profile. Once I've done that, I can also drag and drop files to upload them to this inquiry. I can drag and drop them onto this zone here, or I can use the Add Files button, a little bit like attaching to an email. And within SID, we can say what attachments or uploads are allowed. So that enables us to stop things like applications and EXEs being uploaded into the system. So maybe we only allow documents, Excel spreadsheets, PDFs, things like that. At the bottom of the log inquiry, we can also send a copy of the email to the student and also send a copy to the owner, or who's going to be the owner, whether that's a team or a person. Now they're unticked at the moment, but what we can do is we can set each category up as a default to say whether we think when an inquiry is logged against that category, whether those emails should go out. And that'll be set up as part of the configuration just before go live. So lots of different things that I need to do as a staff member when logging an inquiry. However, it makes sure that I've got the right information and it goes to the right team, and I can upload any relevant documents to the inquiry at first point of logging. So once I've done that, I'm going to choose Log Now. As soon as I've chosen Log Now, you'll see it will give you a read-only view and a confirmation that it's been logged with an unique inquiry number, and it will confirm who it's been logged to. So you can see I've logged it to Logan, and it's created a new inquiry with an inquiry number of 0037. So that's how you log an inquiry for a student. Now, there may be cases where you also want to log an inquiry for a student, but it's an inquiry that you've dealt with already, and you may want to close it as you're logging it. So to do that, I'm going to do the same thing. As you probably just saw, I went to the student profile, pressed New Inquiry. Again, I could be looking directly on the profile and pressing that button to log in an inquiry. Comes to the same screen. So I'm going to choose a category of careers, events and workshops. I'm going to put in the subject as normal. And I'm going to put in the description of what the student asked me. So at this point, what I want to do is I want to close it because I've dealt with it. So although I've put in the description of the problem, what I'm then going to do is I'm going to click on the Solution tab, and I'm going to provide the details of how I resolve the inquiry there. So I've put in the solution. Now what I want to do is I just want to make sure I've filled in the rest of the details. So I'm going to press on Show Advanced Options. I'm going to put in the source, so the student was with me. And because I've already dealt with it, I'm also going to allocate it to myself, because I'm the one who's dealt with it because she asked me, and I was able to resolve it on the spot. So I've allocated it to myself. I've put in the solution as well as what the problem was. And I'm also going to click on the little checkbox on the left just underneath Allocate to Self to say I'm also closing this when I'm logging it. And it's placed underneath Allocate to Self as a little bit of a reminder to say, actually, if you are resolving this while you're closing it, generally you want to allocate it to yourself when you close on log. So again, I could link it to another inquiry. I could upload files. I could choose where the email is going to go. And now I'm going to log the inquiry. Now you'll see it goes to the same screen. It gives me the confirmation with the next inquiry number, 38. It confirms who it's logged it for. You'll see the same blue box, login inquiry, but this time you'll see a green box to say that I've actually closed it as well. So two main ways there. Logging the inquiry for a student and passing it to somebody else, or passing it to the default team that needs further comment or further resolution, or maybe that you need to log an inquiry and close it off just so it's on the student record to say that you've resolved a query that you've been asked. So two main ways there. If at any point in time when you've logged an inquiry and you get to the confirmation screen here, if you need to start dealing with that inquiry, again, what you can do is open it in what we call inquiry management, which is a big blue button at the left hand side, and that will open it into what we call edit view. So those inquiries that we've logged but we haven't closed, they will go to the team that's been selected, whether that's default allocation, so the team that's against the category, or the manual allocation that we've told it to go to that team. Every team has a team summary, and that can be found in the menu under Inquiries and My Team Summary. And if I click on here, I can see all the inquiries that are attributed to my team, and I'll also be able to see anybody within my team who's dealing with that inquiry. So the team summary, you have a summary grid area at the top. Now it's hidden by default. You can show the summary grid by clicking on Show Summary Grid on the right hand top corner, and the summary grid will appear. I'll explain all of that in a moment. Down the left hand side you'll see a tile view of all the inquiries. Each tile is an inquiry, and they're grouped by who owns them currently. So you can see there are 3 in the actual team pot. Keith is dealing with 1, Lindsay's dealing with 1, and Olga's also dealing with 1. If I want to see the details of any of those inquiries, all I need to do is single click on them and they'll appear in the edit area on the right hand side. Every inquiry has the same layout. At the top you have all the details of the inquiry, so who the student is, what category it was logged to, who the current person is dealing with it, or whether that's in the team pot, date and time it was logged, if it was last updated, date and time, what service level agreement time guide we have left, what status the inquiry is, and if a severity was set. On the right hand side, if any attachments were uploaded, you'll see them appear here as a list, very similar to how it looks on Outlook, as in the block. And below that we'll see any interaction that's happened on that inquiry. So we can see that's the inquiry we logged earlier for Logan about requiring support on job hunting. If I need to work on an inquiry, we call them actions in SID, and any action you do on an inquiry starts within this action box. So an action could be assigning an inquiry to yourself to deal with. It could be handing it on to another team. It could be adding a note, adding a file, asking the student for more information, or giving a resolution to the inquiry and closing it down. So, for example, let's say that this inquiry I'm going to deal with. So I want to hand it on to myself to say it's out the team pot. So how do I know it's in the team pot? Well, you'll see that on the summary grid. So you can see in the summary grid all the people within the team, and what they're currently dealing with, and the totals at the bottom. On every summary grid, there'll always be an area for the team. So you'll see Careers Advisory Service Edinburgh team has 3 inquiries currently that nobody in the team is dealing with because they're in the team pot. So what I can do here is I can click on those open inquiries, and what will happen is once I've filtered up on the summary grid, it will filter on the left hand side tile view as well for you. So I can just concentrate on those 3 inquiries that no one's dealing with. So as luck would have it, that Logan one's there, so I'm going to deal with this one. So I'm going to click in to see the view. I'm then going to go down and add an action. So again, this is a long list of actions you can do as a staff member. Again, it's a search as you type. And I know I want to hand it on to me. So I'm going to just type in hand, and it will give me all the actions. So I can see the first one, hand on inquiry to new owner. That's what I want to do because I want to hand it on to me. So I'm going to select that and choose create action. Once I've chosen create action, you'll see a new box appear just below. So every action that we do on an inquiry is done within this box. And depending on the options on that in this box will depend on the action that you've chosen. However, the layout is always the same. The action message or the description of what you've done is always a rich text box where again you can do bold, italic, underline, bullets, lists, change the text size, images, lots of different things, add in links as well. Again, just like on login and inquiry, we can use standard responses. It's a hand-on, so it's given me a little bit of information. Just so when I'm adding this, that anybody else knows who put this action in and what it was. Now, you may have noticed as well, on this hand-on, it says internal on the side of it. And there's 2 types of actions. There's an action a student can see, and there's an action a student can't see. Now, anything with internal means that the student, when they're looking at their view, won't be able to see the details of that. So there'll be internal notes or moving it onto a different department or handing it on to a different team member, because to a student, they don't need to know those details, and they just want the resolution. So that's why we have 2 types of actions. So to hand it on, I'm going to go into action settings, and under hand on inquiry, you'll see it's already put me in as the person it thinks I want to hand it on to. So whenever you're doing a hand on to a new owner, it's going to put you, who you logged in as, already in there, because it assumes that you want to hand it on to yourself. If that's not the case, just click the select staff button, and that enables you, just like manual allocation, to choose any team out of any of the campuses to either hand it on to, or maybe any person. But actually I do want to hand it on to myself, so I'm going to leave my name in there. What I can also do is do file uploads, and I can also choose the email options of where the automatic emails may go to. And again, depending on the action will depend on what's defaulted for you. So for example, it's an internal and it's going to a new owner, so the email owner box is ticked automatically for you. There are other options on there, I'll explain them in a moment. So I've made sure there's some detail. It's automatically chosen the person, or I could choose them themselves, and I can choose send action. And now you'll see that inquiry will come out of the team pot, and you'll see now it's in my name. And if I go back up, you can see that it's now attributed to me. So let me click on my name, and I can see I've got that inquiry in there. So that's how you hand on. It may be that you want to ask the student for more information. So again, that's an action. I'm going to go into the action box. I'm going to type in what I want to do, and it will give me the options. So add further information from inquirer or request information from inquirer. So I'm going to choose the request info one. And again, create action. This time you'll see it hasn't got internal, so I know that's going to be shown to the student, and when set up, all the emails will go out to the student as well. So I'm going to provide the description of the action. So I've typed the message to the student, and that's going to go onto the inquiry, and also an email will automatically be sent to the student. Now, in action settings, there's a few other things I can do. The first thing I can do is, if there's any FAQs against this category of job hunting, it might be relevant to copy the details in to send it to the student. And you can do this at any action where it's going to go out to the student. So to check if there's any FAQs against that category, you can simply click on FAQ search. And that will tell you any FAQs against that category. So you can see there's 3. And I can click on the details and see what information is there. Now, it may be that you want to send some of those details. So once you've chosen the FAQ, if you choose select and close, it will copy the FAQ number into the action. Now, I've already put in some detail, but what I also want to do is copy in that FAQ, just so that detail's already there for the student. So I'm going to click on copy FAQ into action, and you'll see at the bottom of my message it adds in what's already in that FAQ. And as I say, I'm just showing you in this action, but you can do it in any action that isn't an internal. Now, just like standard responses, with FAQs, it could be that you just want to copy it in and customize it for the student. So all I'm going to do is just take out the details that I don't want to send. And now, by using the FAQs already in the system, I've been able to send some standard information that they'll be able to find, and also it's linked that FAQ to that inquiry. I can also set a reply by date. Now, a reply by date on an action allows you to set a date where you want the system to remind you to either chase or do something on that action. So I'm going to say I want to chase it up on the 22nd. And what SID will do, it will send me or the person who's dealing with the inquiry an email to say there's a reply by date that you're dealing with. Please log in, see this inquiry. You need to do something with it today. Now, a reply by date, even if it's to a student action, always comes to the staff member as the owner for them to chase. And that way we can just manage workload and make sure we're getting the information back and forth. Again, I've got file upload, email options. I've got quite a few in here, so I'll just explain what they are. When an email goes out on an action, it will only send the details of what you're currently inputting. However, if for any reason you need to send a full transcript of that inquiry, use the include full inquiry text in email checkbox, and that will send everything that's happened on that. When emails go out, we also include an automatic link that allows a student to click on there and send them straight into SID to look at that inquiry and reply. If for any reason you don't want to send that link, just click that checkbox there and it will hide the link for you. You can email the inquirer or the student, you can email yourself, or you can email the owner. The owner being the owner here. Now, the reason we have email self and email owner is because the person who is adding the action may not be the owner. That's the only reason they're different. If you've uploaded any files and you want to send them out with the email, then click on email file attachments uploaded with the action. And if you've uploaded more than one and you want to zip them up into a single file, click on zip. You can also add an ad hoc email address which you type in a little bit like a BCC, where it will send a copy of the email out to that person. And again, because of the default set against this action, it's already ticked email inquiry for you. So I'm going to send that action. And you can see it's now added a third area. Now, on those actions that you've added, if any emails have been sent, you'll see a link at the bottom that says show email sent. And this is a way to check what emails have gone out in the system. So if I click here, it will show me that an email has been sent to the inquirer, to that address. If I click on it, it will give me a quick read-only view of what's sent. It will also give you the details, so whether it was sent or whether it's on retry, the date you sent it, and who it's gone to, what the subject was, details, and that's all the details I typed in earlier. So if you ever want to see what emails have been sent, just click on the show email sent button at the bottom of each action or timeline note, and it will give you a list of all the emails sent. You'll also see, because I put in a reply by date, it's put in a note to say a response has been set to the 22nd of December. On each interaction note, you'll also see a cog on the top right hand corner. And by clicking on that cog, you can do a few things. If you're the person who's put in this action, you'll be able to edit it. Maybe you've put some information wrong, and rather than putting a new action on and duplicating information, you just want to change it, so you'll be able to edit that. It may be that you want to, so if I do edit, it just takes you back into the action screen. It may be that you want to email this part of the inquiry to somebody, and you can choose email this action, and you'll see again it uses the action area. It puts in the message exactly how it's shown on the timeline, and then you can choose who to email that to. Or it may be that you need to create a new inquiry from those details, so you can choose create new inquiry, and it will copy all the details of that interaction timeline note in, copy the category, what the subject was and who the inquirer was, the student, and enables you to log a new inquiry for it. So once you've started to put actions in, depending on what you've chosen will depend on where it shows within the summary grid. So for example, I've just done an action where I've requested further information from the inquirer or student. So you'll now see that on the summary grid against my name, I've got 1 in the inquirer column. So I can clearly see that I've got 1 current open inquiry against my name, and that's waiting on the inquirer or the student to get back to us. So by using a combination of the summary grid and the actions on the inquiry, you can use the summary grid to really see what workload you have and where it is within both the SLAs and who's currently dealing with it, whether it's waiting on the student or whether it's waiting on a staff member. So I've done lots and back and forth on this inquiry, and now I know I need to close it and give the answer to the student. So again, I'm going to go back to the action. I'm going to put close in, and I've got all the options about closing. I'm going to choose owner provides solution closes inquiry and create the action. You can see it's using the exact same box with all the exact same options in. I can also upload files if I need to. And I can choose where the email is going to go. Well, it's closing the inquiry and sending the solution to the inquirer, so I know that's correct. I'm also going to email that file attachment that I've just uploaded here, so Koala, to the student, so they've got a copy of that as well in the email. So now I can send the action. You'll see at the bottom it's added the solution, what I've added in, and every time we upload an action, upload a file to an action, it will show you what action you uploaded it to. So you can see I uploaded it to the solution, but also for quick use, you can see that it's added it to the list of file attachments at the top header of that inquiry. Now you'll automatically see that the summary grid's updated, and I haven't got any open inquiries. I've got 2 closed. That one I've just closed, and also the one I closed when I logged it. So, by using the summary grid, I can see what the team has outstanding in the team open pot, but I can also see what everyone else is working on. I can use a summary grid to focus into an area, so I can see what's what's outstanding for that team pot. I can see the details of an inquiry just by clicking on the tile, and by using an action I can start to use the inquiry, send information, hand it on to different teams and people, upload attachments, and also close the inquiry. And I can do that all from within my team summary. It's also important to note that whilst I've got a team summary, I've also got my own summary. And every staff member on the left-hand menu will see a My Summary option. And if I click on there, you'll see it'll look exactly the same as the My Team Summary. However, it's only going to show me anything that has me against its name. So you can see I've got one open inquiry and two closed. You'll also see that one that I've just allocated to myself is out of contract. So it's gone over the agreed SLA. So that's how to log an inquiry. That's how to log an inquiry and close it down at the same time. We've looked at My Team Summary, where you can see a view of your whole team, what's outstanding in your team pot and what other people are working with. We can click on the tile to see all the details. We can use actions to start working with the inquiry. And we can use My Summary to see just what's attributed to my name. So a few other things I want to show you in these summary grids. The first one is what we call our workspace. So for example, it may be that I'm looking at an inquiry and I just want to mark the inquiry number so I can go back to it quickly later. Maybe I'm not dealing with it, but maybe it's a student I've dealt with before and I think I just need to keep an eye on the inquiry, or I need a way of marking it to update it later or come back to it. So on every tile you'll see this icon here, and if you hover over it, it says Add to Workspace. If you click on there, you'll see it will add it to this workspace at the top. Now, it doesn't matter if I'm in My Team Summary, which is where I've just added that, or I go to My Summary. You'll see it will follow me whatever summary page I'm on. Now that doesn't allocate it to me automatically, it just bookmarks that inquiry, so wherever I am within the summaries I can just click on it just to see what's happening. You can have 10 inquiries in the workspace. You can clear them by using the X on the left hand side, or you can clear your whole workspace at the top right hand corner. So workspace is just a way of bookmarking an inquiry to go back to it later. You can also change the size of the left hand tile. It may be that you want to see a little bit more information in the tile view rather than clicking through it. And you can use that by the 3 dots on the top right where it says Inquiry Filters. Small view is a standard view you're looking at now. Medium view gives you a little bit more information. And also if you hover over it in medium view, it gives you a lot of top header information. Or there's a large view, and that gives you a list type view at the bottom. Doesn't actually matter what view you're in. If you click on the details, it will always appear in the top, in the right-hand side. Even in large view, if I click on an inquiry, it's going to open it back up so I can see the details. What I can also do is use inquiry filters. So if I click on the word inquiry filters, I can start to filter down what I see here as well. So for example, I might want to do it by student code. I might need to search for an actual inquiry number. I can do a text filter, or I can do a date range of when it was logged. I can also use advanced filters to start filtering it down by maybe the status, what source it was when it was logged, what category, maybe what country it's come from, whether it was logged by the help desk or whether it was logged by a student. Lots of different things that you can use to really break it down and sort of help with filters and using that that summary view, as your day-to-day work. So for example, just as a quick example, if I want to see what further study categories are, I can quickly use a filter to see that. Well, there's none, that's great. And I can simply go back. Again, I could use category, but this time I want to see only those that are against job applications and interviews, and I can see there's one. So by using filters, I can also filter and drill down into the summary, maybe just to make sure I'm dealing with the right categories. Really useful on front desk or maybe for reporting purposes as well. Once I've done the filters as well, I might want to come back to that later, and depending on your access control will depend on whether you can do what's called custom views. And what I can do is save that as a custom view, give it a name, and then when I come back to my summary view later, I can use a custom view to say show me all the job apps only, and that will just run that filter that I've already done. So hopefully you can see that just by using a single view you can do everything you need to do on an inquiry without having to go to different pages or different view states. It's all within that one view. So let's look quickly at FAQs as a staff member. If I click on all FAQs, it's going to show me any FAQs that I can search for. Now when we go in, we'll see a list of all inquiry categories. So these are all the inquiry categories. The numbers here tell you how many subcategories are under this category. If I wanted to see what FAQs are against that category, all I need to do is click on it. So for example, let's see what's under careers. And you can see under careers, I've got 62 FAQs under 27 subcategories. And it will give you a long list of what the category is and what FAQs are under it. So let's have a look under my job hunting one. How do I find part-time or volunteering jobs? So let's have a look at the details of that. So I can just click on it and it will show me the details. As a staff member, you can see everything that a student sees. So what the question is, what the answer is, what the FAQ number is. If there's any staff only notes, you'll see them appear under additional notes. I can also see how many students have looked at it and if there's any comments that have been left when feedback's been left about an FAQ. And it will show me the number of comments left. Well, there's none there at the moment. However, as a staff member, I will also see this extended info bar. What the extended info bar tells you is a little bit more about who created it, who's the owner, so Careers Advisory Service own it, what keywords are against the category, the FAQ, sorry, and when it was last updated. Now, depending on your access control, will also depend on if you have the access to edit that FAQ. You'll know if you're allowed to edit an FAQ is because you'll see the pencil appear in the top right hand corner when you're viewing an FAQ. So for example, I'm in the Careers Advisory Service, so I'm looking at a careers FAQ, so I can edit. However, if I look at disability services ones, you'll see I won't be able to edit because my team doesn't own those FAQs, so I can't update them. Let me just go back to a careers one. If I want to edit the FAQ, I simply press the edit icon and it will show me all the details of the FAQ in an edit screen. So an FAQ has a title and a question, and you'll see we've decided that the title and the question are the same thing. They could be worded differently, but it's normally best practice to have them the same. When a student searches, it uses both the keywords, but also on an advanced search, it will use the title, not the question, to search for FAQs. So that's why we're putting the question and the title the same. I can also edit the answer. And again, I can use HTML, add images, links. I can even embed videos into this. I can add additional notes. Remember, they're staff only notes that a staff member will only be able to see. I can also edit what category it goes against. And I can see the current category is job hunting. I can edit the keywords against it. And the keywords are a little bit like when you're searching for a website. It allows students to look for FAQs and bring back a list of FAQs depending on the sentence or the keywords that they've sent, that we've inputted into the system. You'll also see, because I've edited it, it will automatically go to draft. Now again, depending on your access control will depend on whether you're allowed to publish an FAQ for a student to see. You'll see generally for teams it will go to draft and pending, and then either somebody from someone from the management team or something like that will have ability to publish that FAQ once we've gone through a check-in process. So a student won't be able to see it unless it's at a published status. So as a normal member of staff, I'll be able to update this FAQ, and then that will automatically be able to be seen, gone through a process of check-in, and then published by whoever has access to it. I can also say when this FAQ is visible from and to, and whether that's a repeat annually. So for example, this FAQ might only be applicable in May. So it may be that we want to hide it for the rest of the year. So by putting the 1st of May to the end of May and saying repeat annually, that allows us to just show it within May every year. And whether it's important or critical will display it in different areas upon in the FAQ pages. And I think as part of the FAQ update process, when we're going through the check-in procedure, I think whoever's got publish access will be able to say whether it's an important one or a critical one. The difference between important and critical, just so you know, critical will show on a panel on the right hand side and will follow the student wherever they are within FAQs. Important will show in a list at the top when you're in the all FAQs page. So once you've made the changes to your FAQ, simply press save, and that will go into a draft status where a manager will be able to pick that up, check it, and then publish it. Now again, that's the same, and it's the same form as if you're creating a new FAQ, which again, as long as you've got access to on your access control, you'll see create new under FAQs on the left hand menu. By clicking on that, you'll see rather than an edit form, I get the same form but in create. And again, you'll go through the details, fill in the answer, additional notes, put it against a category, fill in your keywords, say who the owning team is, and say whether you believe it should be important or critical. Save it, and then it will go through the same check-in process. So that way, as members of staff, we have the ability to edit FAQs and take it through to a check-in process before it's shown back to students, but also create new FAQs that come up, maybe as we're dealing with inquiries. When we're dealing with inquiries, once we've closed an inquiry, an action will appear to you to say create a new FAQ from this inquiry. That enables you to go to that page using all the details of the inquiry and create a new FAQ off the back of that. In FAQs as well, you can do advanced searches. So that enables you to search by FAQ code, maybe words in a title, and again you can say whether it's an exact match or each word in any order. So for example, if I put jobs in there, oh, that was a bad example, wasn't it? There you go, job. You can see it's found 6 FAQs with job in. You can do the same with question words and keywords. You can search for maybe FAQs in categories. So for example, let's see what's in enrolment. Nothing. You can also show any critical FAQs or any that were created or updated between a certain date range. You can also search by who the FAQ team owner is or person. So that's a search to show me everything that Disability Services own. And with advanced searches, once you've done your search and put in all of your details and got the results back, just like in inquiries, as long as you've got access to save custom views, you can set up a custom view for yourself that when you're in FAQs you can see the details of. So I can go in and run that search again and it brings me back the details. So we've looked at the staff side. We're going to look quickly at the student side. Now the student side is very similar, but a very, very stripped down version of what the staff see. So when a student comes in, we'll drive them through to FAQs. Again, you'll see a very similar view. So for example, if I wanted to see all the careers ones, I can click on careers and it will give me a list. Or, as a student, just like in Google, I could type in a question to see what FAQs we've already got. Can't spell. So, I've typed in a question, how do I look for volunteering roles? And it's told me I've got 3 options. I can search for FAQs on how to do that, or I can look at the FAQ, how do I find a part-time or volunteering job? Or I can look at how do I log in? So there must be a keyword on how do I log in, probably how or something. But by using keywords, we can sort of tailor what they see in FAQs. So as a student, I'm going to say, well, that matches what I mean. So I'm going to click on that one. And it's going to show me all the details of it. And you'll see, because I'm logged in as a student, I can't see the additional information or extended details. Excuse me. As a student, maybe that answers my question. I can do 2 things. I could maybe print it out, or if I wanted to, I could get that emailed into my inbox so I could read it later. And if I click on that, it would just send an email to the student automatically. I could also say whether it's helped me or not. A little bit like Facebook, yes or no. And I could leave details about that. And that is a way for us to monitor how FAQs are doing and how students think the information is provided. However, if it didn't answer my question, as a student, what I can do is then log an inquiry. Now you'll see, because I was on a job hunting FAQ, it's already set the category for me. And then as a student, I would put in my subject, and also my message. So you'll also notice that logged in as a student, I can't do any HTML, bold text, it's all plain text. What I can do though is I can drag and drop files, or I can upload them as normal. So a really simple interface for the student, and I can click send. and that will go away to the team. And it will go directly into the careers team pot for them to pick up and use that My Team summary that we've seen before. Now, as a student, I can track my own inquiries. That's the one I've just logged. I can open them up to see all the details on them, but I'll only see the details that aren't internal actions that a staff member's added. And I can also update. So it may be that I add further information, or it could be that I want to close the inquiry. And again, as a student, I've got very few options, but it gives me enough options to make sure I can update my own inquiries, see what's happening on those inquiries, update them, add files, or maybe close them if I've resolved them myself. And as a student, I can only see my basic and contact information. I can't see all the other information that are brought through for staff, and I can see only my own activities. So for example, I can see that I've looked at 3 FAQs and I've got 26 inquiries. So as a student, I see a really stripped down view, but it's all self-service through FAQs, being able to search on keywords, being able to see the information, being able to log an inquiry directly from an FAQ if it doesn't answer my question, but if it does, I can send it to my inbox, or because I've looked at it, it's going to mark it on my activity so I can come back to it later.